Welcome back to WEFTEC Live. I am the host, Travis Loop. Going to talk about net zero. Joined for this conversation by Hayati Yarkadas. You are the Senior Vice President and President of Europe, Water Infrastructure and Global Lifecycle Services for Xylem. Welcome to WEFTEC. Very glad to have you here. Excited to talk about net zero. We hear that term a lot, right? It's thrown around a lot. What does net zero mean?
Well, thanks for having me, Travis. So very happy to be here. You know, net zero means reducing greenhouse gas emissions to close to zero level, where the remaining, greenhouse gas emissions are absorbed by the atmosphere and our seas, and it's critical going forward for our future.
Well, yeah, why are we hearing so much about it? Why is it like everywhere in the water conversation right now?
Well, we all owe that to our next generation. We are all vested to reduce the GHGs so that we have a healthier planet for ourselves and for our children. And as you know, since Paris Agreement in 2016, over 70 countries that account for 76% of GHGs around the world, they committed to either net zero or some level of environmental reduction, huge reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. So that is critical. And it's critical for our utilities because,
that's what I was going to ask, is why should water utilities be paying so much attention to this idea of net zero and then put in the effort to get there?
Look, it's a huge opportunity. Utilities account for 2% of GHGs in the world. And just to make an analogy, it's as big of a GHGs of global shipping industry.
Okay.
So it is important, and many of the solutions are there to help our water utility customers and our peers to reduce their emissions going forward.
And I also think you mentioned the percent of emissions they're responsible for globally. I know in communities, water facilities can be a big energy user. They might be responsible for like 40% of a municipality's energy use. So that's a big part in our communities, right?
Absolutely. So it is about the water utilities and the communities that they serve to create a cleaner and more healthier environments. That's why we got to commit to reducing our GHGs in our water industry.
All right, so let's talk about the path to net zero. If a utility hears about this, they decide, you know what, we want to start going that way. Let's talk about that a little bit. What does the path to net zero look like for a water utility?
Well, first of all, net zero is possible for water utilities quickly and affordably. And water industry actually has an opportunity to decarbonize one of the fastest industries in the world, as we have many of the solutions in our hands today.
That's exciting.
Absolutely. I mean, let me, a few considerations in terms of path to net zero. It starts with setting realistic targets and a base, and it goes into focusing on existing assets before new assets and new technologies. There's a lot of opportunity to improve the emissions of our existing assets.
So the base is like just finding out where you are, right? Like what is your energy situation? What's your emission situation? You can't manage what you don't measure, right? Like you got to know where you are to start. Okay.
Set a base, a target, a journey. Focus on existing assets, existing network, and then as you build and add new assets, build net zero thinking fully operationally in how you make those decisions.
Okay.
And the last one is important, planning for future. In our industry, there is an opportunity to look at process emissions and use processes for generating energy. And actually, water utilities could be net energy producers as opposed to net energy consumers. So that's the fourth step that I would suggest.
Okay, I want to try to dig into a couple of these steps a little bit with you. The idea of looking at what you have right now rather than thinking you got to add new things. What does that mean? Like look at your current equipment, look at your current processes, look where you can get the reductions in energy. and carbon in those current processes?
Travis, I'll give you two examples.
Okay.
One from Europe, where I come from, where I reside, and one from the US.
Okay.
Start with the European example. EWE, one of the largest water utilities in northern part of Germany, focusing on their existing assets in their wastewater treatment plants, they employed smart digital technologies, and that helped them reduce energy consumptions in their aeration process, which is a huge energy consumer in treatment plants, by 30%.
Wow.
Okay, that's about energy consumption, right? And that's not the only challenge that we're facing here as an industry. Example from U.S. City of South Bend in Indiana, they were facing severe sewer overflows, and by deploying technologies, optimization technologies, they could reduce those overflows by 70% and get ahead in the net zero game 10, 15 years, as opposed to building costly gray infrastructure. So those are two examples that I can give you where solutions are there, and it will take collaboration across the ecosystem to go and address those issues.
So those are addressing some of your current processes, current equipment. You mentioned also maybe adding things, or when you're adding things in the future. What can utilities do as they're growing, as they're expanding, or new equipment could they add, or new processes could they add to try to push toward net zero?
As I mentioned earlier, Travis, the first point there is making net zero considerations and KPIs and objectives as part of your day-to-day decision making. So every time you make a decision about a new asset, so look for net zero, promise of those new assets in terms of energy consumption, in terms of GHG emissions of that asset that you're adding. So making that part of how you run day-to-day operations is a way to go as our customers our public utilities add new assets going forward.
The idea of a utility being a net energy producer is something that really excites me. I think that's awesome. Could you talk about what that looks like? There are some utilities out there that are that, not many, but what does that look like? How do they keep their energy consumption low, and then how are they actually producing energy?
There are two dimensions to that.
Yeah.
One, as we process water, as we move water around the network, and as the water flows to our pipe networks, first, minimize non-revenue water. So water leakages and water that is not measured and metered and billed, because that takes a lot of energy. Technologies exist without going in and changing all the network, to detect where the leakages are, electronic with digital technologies, and minimize non-revenue water. That's step one. Yeah. Number two, look at the entire network, from pumping, treating, aeration, treatment processes, and without changing the equipment that's used in those processes, improve the efficiency of those products and systems to reduce energy consumption. And the third one, we call it process, and focusing on the process. Wastewater has got a lot of energy in it. It's got heat in it, and we see a huge explosion in the world of production of biogas that turns into an energy, and that can help public utilities, water utilities, to be net energy producers as opposed to energy consumers.
Yeah, I imagine that there are more facilities that are kind of approaching this, or are energy producers in Europe than the U.S.
We see movements. Europe has invested in biogas over the last 15 years, driven by regulation, subsidies, which has created a scale, and we see significant interest in the U.S. as well, and also other parts of the world.
Okay. Xylem is obviously one of the global leaders in water solutions and technology and innovation. Could you talk a little bit about some of the advanced technologies, some of the innovative solutions that can help utilities on this journey?
Absolutely. So, getting to net zero for water utilities will take a number of things. One, as we talked about, it is going to take technology. It's going to take focusing on existing processes and further investments as the water utilities make new investments. And it will take partnership and collaboration across the ecosystem, regulation, policies, universities, startups, companies like Xylem. We're not the only one. There are other companies, having multiple technologies. It will take a bit of digital savvy labor and talent at water utilities. And we see that with the generation moving on and the new generation taking over in water utilities, that they are more digitally savvy, they're more open to bringing new technologies like reducing non-gravity water, improving efficiencies of existing assets, system optimization, network optimization, digital solutions. There are and smart pumping that can reduce energy consumption by up to 30, 35, 40%. So there are technologies in our hand. The water industry has the technologies in hand today to abate 50% of all GHGs that it emits today.
That's stunning, yeah.
Other 50% will take time, will take other technologies, but I'm proud, my company, Xylem, and other companies, we are on it.
Are you having your clients proactively come to you to look for kind of these solutions on the energy and emissions front?
Travis, this has been a journey. So it took some pioneers to go and work, create pilots and create examples. Water utilities like to see examples in other places. So I think we are at an inflection point where there are great, I gave you 2 examples that are created that are affordable and quick solutions to make a big dent today in GHG emissions, and then partner with companies like Xylem, but others to improve going forward. Yes, so it took leadership, and now we're seeing that inflection point of water utilities being more open to new technologies.
There's always that bell curve,
absolutely,
right? You need those early adopters, and then people to see that, and then boom, then you go and make great progress.
Electric vehicles is a great example of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We know how quickly technology is changing. The digital realm is changing. It seems like exponential change. What do you see with all of that over the next 5, 10 years? Do you think that is going to keep changing and then be applied to this whole effort?
Absolutely. The challenges that our industry faces, public utilities faces, and their commitments to the communities they serve is so immense that it will take technology, it will take digital technologies. If you look at multiple other industries, automotive industry is one example. It's well ahead in terms of its digital journey. So, and it will also take partnership and collaboration across the ecosystem. So,
sure.
I am very optimistic, Travis.
Optimism's good.
Absolutely.
I like that. Well, thank you very much for this conversation. Net zero, it's just around in the water conversations a lot more and more. I think the younger generation is very attuned to the global situation, climate change, sustainability, and they want this sector to be part of that.
Absolutely.
And so it's an exciting time. It definitely is. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me, Travis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all that are watching WEFTEC Live right now. This will be wrapping things up here soon for us, but please keep tuned in to weftec.org for more news and information. Please also check out WEF's new strategic plan, which you can find at wefwaterfuture.org. It will highlight the path that our organization is now on toward a life free of water challenges. We're really focused on the areas of building workforce, building community, building the circular economy. We also want to hear your stories of how you're helping to build those different areas. And you can go to that website, wefwaterfuture.org, and you can share your water stories, and then WEF will share those in turn with the broader water sector. So please do that. Also, please mark your calendars for WEFTEC 2023 in Chicago next year, September 30th to October 4th. Not too early to make those plans.